Back again with another essentials video for you guys. This is a series where we take a deep dive into a genre, give you 5 essential albums for it, and then hopefully give you guys some new music to chew on, to give a listen to, and give you maybe a route into a genre that you might not be fully familiar with. There's lots in this series already. I really hope you guys are enjoying what I do with this one. If you do, please let me know. If you don't, also let me know why you don't enjoy it. And if you haven't seen any of them, well, click the playlist, watch the other videos. There's loads now. I've done like, whoa, many, and they'll keep on coming. And today we're looking at instrumental hip hop. So if you'd like to request anything for the series, please give a few suggestions. And if you want a definite I will be doing this video, please check out my Patreon as well, where you can request them over on there. You can support me as well for just a small amount per month. Join the Discord server, get shout outs and videos, all that kind of stuff, and yeah, get your own requests in there as well. So we're looking at instrumental hip hop today. I'm sure if you're already a hip hop head, you're already familiar with instrumental hip hop, but in case you're not, this could be a nice video for you guys to dive into a different world of hip hop. You know, this is totally different to your average typical rap album, and instrumental hip hop artists, producers have kind of found their own ways of just creatively putting different sounds and ideas into the world for other artists to then sample or use or work with later on. You know, there's some of these names, yes, are instrumental hip hop artists, but they also produce for other rappers as well and produce for other rap groups. So yeah, there's a lot to dive into here. I just wanted to give you 5. There's a few in this that you might not necessarily be thinking of, but there's going to be some pretty famous, recognizable ones as well. So let's not waste any more time. Here are the 5 picks that I came up with. Donuts, Diller. Yes, we know it, we love it. We already are aware of the brilliance of this album, but how could it not be an essential when you're talking about instrumental hip hop, man? This is kind of hip hop at its peak. This is sampling at its peak. This is just the mind of someone that was so unique to the world of hip hop, basically pouring everything into this album, because the ideas, the creativity, the playfulness, the way this album just continues to throw ideas at you, it feels like it's continuously never ending, and it's just going and going and going. There's barely any breaks, there's barely any pauses between the songs. Some of the tracks just seamlessly flow into one another, and it just feels like a constant bombardment of different sampling ideas and sampling chops. But Jesus, man, the brilliance of Diller can never be understated, because wow, just it's so fun to listen to this album. Just picking out the samples or picking out some of the little bits that he throws in is just makes for such a fun time listening to this, man. It is just such a brilliant bombardment of creativity being poured into an album. And this is the thing with this album, I've always thought it was a really bloody good album, but I still feel like what we could have got from Diller in the future may have even topped this, and it's just such a shame that obviously we did lose him quite early on, because the brilliance of what he was coming out with on this album, man, is just fantastic. I mean, how short some of these tracks are as well. It's literally just like one idea kind of blurted out for like 45 seconds and then it's immediately on to the next one. But within that short period of time, within these short snappy tracks, so much is thrown at you. You've got like samples from the Doors, you've got samples from all kinds of different places, just absolutely being beautifully crafted in such a way that made for such a fun listen. Yeah, you can't knock Donuts. Of course it's an essential. I, of course, am always going to throw in a few curveballs with this series, and this is one of those. Little Armenia from Bei Ru is one that you're not necessarily going to see get mentioned in these conversations, but it absolutely should be. This is a brilliant instrumental hip-hop album from the 2010s that is massively overlooked. I've even done a video on this already highlighting how good this is before, so if you haven't watched that, of course, make sure you give that a watch too, where I go way more in depth on each of the tracks. But so much of the sampling and so much of the ideas are just so vibrant and eclectic, and pulling from like Middle Eastern sounds and different cultures to craft these incredible sounding samples and incredible sounding instrumentals is just so wonderful. Some of the vocal snippets that come through as well are stunning. Just a really, really wonderfully thought out album that has so much going for it and doesn't necessarily sound like other things you may hear in the world of hip hop, to be honest with you. I'm surprised this album hasn't been such a gold mine for rappers these days to pick out some of these samples to rap over, because honestly some of these could be insane to rap over. I would like to see more of it being utilized in hip-hop, but yeah, maybe there's an issue getting these samples or whatever, I don't exactly know. But seriously, there is such a wonderful eclectic mix of sounds on this album. It's so good. I'm going to bring you Nujabes next. I mean, where would this world of lo-fi, chill, hip-hop beats, YouTube phenomenon be without Nujabes? The answer is it wouldn't exist, probably. The aesthetic, the simple, soft, delicate sounds that you hear in a lot of those kind of lo-fi hip-hop beats these days probably are here because of Nujabes himself. And I wanted to give you, for this series, an album that might not be talked about as much compared to his others, but it is still just absolutely brilliant and maybe as good as his others too. Spiritual State for me. This one mostly because I think it has the least amount of vocal contributions compared to Modal Soul or Metaphorical Music. Those two albums have quite a lot of guest features coming in, doing their rappity hippity hoppity stuff, which are really good as well, by the way. But I thought for this particular instrumental hip hop essentials video, I needed the album that had the least amount of that. And there are a few lovely tracks with his guest features coming through with some really nice verses, of course, but for the most part it's just an absolutely pensive and thoughtful and just stunning album that absolutely relaxes you the minute you press play. Some of these tracks, man, are just to die for. I absolutely adore what Nujabes does and the way it makes you feel listening to his music, the sensations of the really beautiful sounds of what he does. It's so soulful, it's so just wonderful to hear. And yeah, absolutely can't express enough how amazing Nujabes is. He has to be in this series, of course. Introducing DJ Shadow. Come on, man. Come on, man. Come on, man. Who's going to deny this one? Who's going to tell me off for bringing this one into the conversation? Nobody. That's who. What an album this is. What an album this is. This feels totally different to anything else I'm going to mention on this list. And I think that's why it's become so acclaimed and so just revered. I mean, wow. Coming through with this in the 90s. Something like the drum samples and the drumming across this album is just absolutely blistering at times. Like, it really doesn't hold up at points on this album. It's just absolutely phenomenal. And of course, some of the melodies on like Midnight in a Perfect World or some of the tracks near the beginning are absolutely beautiful as well. Just an absolutely phenomenal album here. This could easily be in the conversation for the greatest of its kind, like you could easily say it. I think maybe Donuts is also up there as well. Like, if you're talking like the two albums that are the greatest of their genre, I can't really think of anything else other than these two, really. I mean, it is just so bloody good. Repeating what everyone has already said already. What else can I what else can I add to the conversation? It's just so good. Finishing off now with absolutely some of the most unsung heroes in the world of instrumental hip-hop and even cloud rap as well, Friendzone. I mean, Jesus Christ, this Collection 1 album is truly one of the best of its kind for me in terms of the cloud rap wave. Of course, we had a lot of artists in the early 2010s really coming through with some wonderful ideas. Of course, Clams Casino might be one that you think of immediately, but I think Collection 1 might still be the best of that era, to be honest with you, because this is just an absolutely pillowy, psychedelic rush of so many different sounds coming through in such a phenomenal way. The way the loops and the tracks kind of batter you with some of the sounds is absolutely wonderful to hear. And yeah, of course, Friendzone, by the way, was the artist that was involved in the Fashion Killer beat for A$AP Rocky, and that's an incredible track. So there you go. Just goes to show how much influence they've had on the game by getting involved in tracks like that. But yeah, seriously, the series of collection tracks, collection albums, collection 1, 2, 3 has been so good to listen to. If you've never heard any of them, obviously start with this one, number 1, because this is the essential for instrumental hip hop for me. But the others are still really good as well. So yeah, absolutely glorious stuff from these guys on this one. And that is it from me. These are my 5 essential picks for instrumental hip hop. Yeah, that's it. If you have any other albums you want to mention that I haven't mentioned, of course, let me know. There's always room to make more of these videos, to do part 2s, part 3s, part 4s, etc. So these aren't the 5 only ones. They're just the 5 I wanted to mention right out the gate for this video. But of course, let me know your thoughts on any of these albums if you've heard them. If you haven't, check them all out, then come back to me. What's your favourite ever instrumental hip-hop album? Would love to hear what you say that in the comments. Check out my Patreon. Please subscribe and like the video. That's the least you can do. For more of these videos in the future and more other kinds of videos as well, stick around. Got lots of things coming. So yeah, have a good day and goodbye.